2 games, 2 wins, into the next round of the Cup. Unai Emery's birthday ruined. Can't be much better than that. Welcome back to this week's episode of the podcast. I'm joined by Harry, of course. Harry, how you doing?
Yeah, good.
Good.
Probably better than you, to be honest.
Yeah, let's not even talk about the last 2 days because it's fucking mental. You guys will notice the backdrop's changed again. I apologise. Last week, I had to cut it out of the recording, but last week I swung my chair into the setup, knocked, and a bunch of shit fell off, including the side panels. So I've now stretched the unit out wider and then put a scarf down the middle. It looks sick still. You can see both sides if you're on YouTube. If you're not, then visualise.
And Lily King at the top. Yeah.
And Lily King's moved to the top, yeah, because it just looks nicer like that. Right, this week we've got 2 games to talk about.
Is it 3 or 4? Hold on. We've
got 2 games they've been playing to talk about. And we're going to try not to spend too much time on them. City, first and foremost, great win, improvement from last season when we played City in the Cup. I must say, I like expressions. I was raging at the fact we played in the short corner, but what a hit from Pat Matasar. And if you watch it from the angle of Sarr or even behind the goal, the curve on the ball is literally in the bottom corner. No keeper in the world is saving that. Unbelievable strike. Probably will never hit another strike like that again.
I thought that, because when in the stadium, I thought we hit the side netting for a sec, because you can't really tell the way.
You can't tell how much it bent. Yeah. But what a strike. And then we'll talk about his positives before we talk about his negatives. But Timo Werner took his finish really, really well. Great decision-making to get into that position. It takes a touch, hits it.
Kulusevski put the ball in.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, great. It was a great ball from Kulusevski on his weak foot, first and foremost, and then really, really well played from Werner to take the chance. And it was such a key point in the game because yes, we're only 5 minutes in, but that really got the atmosphere going. And the one thing I can say, obviously, Harry, I know you were at both games. One thing I can say from watching it from home after work and whatever and during work based on Sunday's game is the atmosphere for both, especially Sunday, but the atmosphere for both is better than it has been in the last couple of weeks.
Because we're winning games. I think if we're not winning,
the way the crowd got behind the team after we went 1-0 up against City and then 2-0 up against City, I think in those difficult moments, because I'm not going to lie and say the City didn't have chances because they did have chances. But they didn't look composed in the chances they had. And I think the crowd and the atmosphere played a big part in that. I think the Spurs players always felt comfortable enough. And we defended tight and compact in those moments apart from the goal.
Running out like a maniac.
Yeah, we'll talk about Basuma in a second. But I think overall, apart from 1 or 2 moments, I think City really, the chances, they had a lot of chances, but they weren't clear-cut chances. They weren't, apart from the one we're going to talk about in a second. It wasn't like where we played City last year where there was 4 or 5 chances where you could say City really have to score that and then they went and scored the corner. Really felt like from the minute one we controlled the game, we had City where we wanted them. No, in the sense of...
I don't think we controlled the game.
By controlled the game, I mean as in we had City where we wanted them. We scored 2 goals, we scored them relatively early, and then we defended compact, we defended as a unit, and we forced City to really try and push forward, and they just looked toothless going forward. I thought Savinho was probably City's best player, to be fair. I thought the pace and the energy he had, and it was a tough day for Archie Gray. He handled it okay, given his age and given his lack of experience, and I definitely think, I know we've mentioned it before a couple of weeks now, but I definitely think that he's not a right back long term, but he's a squad player for now. He did his role when he came in. He looked exhausted at the end of the game, bless him.
But then, this is what I don't understand, right? We spent 40 million on Archie Gray, and he's supposed to be this, I'm just use the word because everyone keeps bloody saying this, generational player based on his past history of his family. And then we go and play him. I don't know this, by the way. I always saw Gray playing right back last season because I watched like 10 games because I was a Leeds fan at work, so I decided to watch, plus the playoffs as well. Because obviously I had a feeling we were trying to sign him. Don't ask me why, but I just a weird feeling.
Yeah.
But
to sign a player of that supposed quality and then play him out of position right now doesn't seem to make sense.
It's just like for his development, regardless of what I think about Archie Gray, I'm not going to speak on that. But like, why, if he is a 6, why are we not playing him as a 6? If he is one, but right now I see him left back, right back, even centre back in pre-season.
Right now, he's becoming a utility player more than actually honing in his
development. It's just like if he's going to be this incredible, amazing player, it's going to change the world. Like I don't know. Happen.
The other two players I want to talk about from the City game.
Lack of pace does not help on that side.
No, it doesn't. No, and I think that's what kind of shows that he can't really play fullback. The two other players I want to talk about in the City game. Number one, Dom Solanke. Even though he didn't score against City, fucking hell, I don't know if you saw him at full time. He was knackered. This guy just doesn't. It reminds me of Forrest Gump when he says, "From that day forth, I did not start running." Literally, Solanke runs his arse off. He's aggressive in players' faces. But we've said this before about players that when they press for Tottenham, because we just seem to press that extra 10% more than other teams that press. When we press, we've had players in the past that have been aggressive, but in an uncontrolled manner. Lamella being one example of that. He was great at pressing. He was great at getting stuck in players' faces, but he didn't have the self-control to do it in the right way that was going to benefit the team.
Press is that, and this is not against Solanke because he's not doing anything specifically wrong, is that in the City game, of course, they had more of the ball. Once we scored the second goal, I felt like we just gained the initiative, which was really stupid, personally.
Yeah.
I can understand it in the last 5 minutes of the half. That was okay. I didn't have any issues with that because I knew City would go for a spell, at least in the game. But the way we came out the second half, I didn't like it because I thought we need to get back.
It felt like we were trying to hold on a little bit more than...
Like, why did we not control this game? Get the ball, keep it for like even the first 10 minutes of the second half, 15 minutes, kill the momentum they had.
The energy, yeah.
And it was literally, I was just watching the same as the end of the first half and the second half. And I felt we held on in the end, like we got a bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think by the end, and I think there were actually moments because City weren't as good in possession as they can be. They definitely weren't as good as they have been against Spurs, even in games that were beating them in the past. I think there was an opportunity.
Haaland didn't play. He didn't bring money.
I think there was an opportunity to control the game from the 45th to the 65th minute.
Ronaldo came on, and who was the other one that came? Kovacic came on. That's because I think they had injuries, and I think they
yeah.
And then his other two subs were two youngsters, Jacob Wright and some other guy. I can't remember his name. Sorry. And so, like, I don't think Pep took it as seriously as people think.
No, I think, to be honest with you, I think from the minute the second goal went in, Pep accepted he was going to lose. And to be honest with you, the fact that I'll talk about his performance on Sunday as well, but the fact that Solanke still kept running 90th minute, still running.
What I was going to say is I watched this
incredible.
Bear in mind City and the reason I watched the way they play and compare it, or Liverpool play and Arsenal play, whatever, I compare it to us because we're going to be aiming and design work.
To be in and around that bracket, yeah.
Yeah. So you need to, and what I noticed about those teams, especially City, is they'll press in packs. They'll press in like threes.
Yeah.
With us, a lot of times when I watch us, we're like, Solanke does great work. And I'm not saying his work isn't good, but then I don't see one or two players following him in the press.
See, it's interesting you say that because I'm going to make a point on Sunday
under Poch, I remember us doing the free, when the players would get the ball, with a really aggressive press.
There were three players on them the minute they got the ball every time.
With us, it's like, when I watch us, it's like one, at most two.
So there are examples of where we haven't done that, and I will give those when we talk about the game on Sunday. But the one thing I will say that is when we have pressed in packs in Angie's system, it has left gaps. It feels like we're trying to find a middle ground of when we can successfully press as a pack and when we just need to have one. So, for example, there was a goal.
I'm not expecting on like the two centre halves, by the way. When I just messaged, just because you were talking about Solanke's pressing, that's why I just leewayed into that one. But I'm not expecting, three players to attack the centre half, by the way. That's not what I'm trying to say, by the way. But I'm saying as in just in general, I just don't see it pressing in like an organised manner. It just looks a bit of a mess.
I think it's one of those that it's organised in the player's head because of where they know they want to be. But I don't think for us the way you would look at a game, you think, right, well, if he's pressing, he needs to move with him. It almost kind of feels like he's pressing, he's covering the most likely option that they're going to pass to, especially in the midfield. One thing I noticed is when Sarr, and again, he'll be someone I'll talk about when we talk about Sunday's game, but when Sarr presses, someone's always covering where the most likely pass that the player's going to make to get out of trouble is. So they have to go backwards. If they pass forward and try and pass out, we've already got a player going to intercept it. And I can give 2 or 3 examples of where we did that for Sunday's game.
Noticed, for example, it's like too wide in a sense. When I saw City press, it was very like like a triangle. I don't know how to say, like a
Yeah.
triangle. Like it's very like you're there in your face. It's like a box. You're boxed in. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But with us, it's like spread out. I don't know how to explain it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The other player I want to talk about from the midweek game is Basuma, because first of all, and I'm not going to talk about Vicario's issues because we talk about it a lot, and it is another odd one. And if it continues to happen, then we'll talk about it in more depth. But what I want to say is we spoke about 6 weeks ago about whether Basuma would have a drop-off or whether the competition between him, Sarr, Bentancur would actually help him to stay consistent. This is, touch wood, the most consistent I've seen Basuma just drop 7 or 8 out of 10 performances just consistently. He was so good at City, not just his energy, not just his decision-making, but his almost maturity in certain key situations. And his decision to read where that was and move onto the line to block that was unbelievable. And again, when he came on against Villa, again, he looked so experienced and so much more controlled.
Also, he's seeing less minutes, which means that what I'm saying is,
when he has to play, he has to play well.
Probably at some point. I don't want to talk about Son, but what I'm saying is because of that as well. But also, he has more energy because he knows I've got 45 minutes to let rip. Let's say,
yeah, he's using 90 minutes worth of energy in 45 minutes, and it's unreal. And I think. Also, he's not coming on with that kind of, I've got a point to prove. He's coming on going, I need to put in a 90-minute performance in 45 minutes. And for us, as a team that have not had, if you think back to 2017, 2018, we never had a squad. One thing we said, and we said it earlier in the year, and we said it slightly in the back of the last year, that Spurs are slowly building a squad of players where, you know what, you can bring somebody on at halftime, or you can bring somebody on in the 55th minute or the 60th minute, and you know that they're going to put in 90 minutes performance in that time. And that's a privilege that we've not had for a long time. And
midfield, I agree with you.
We're still lacking quality in attacking depth, I'd agree. Yeah. And we're still lacking numbers in defensive depth, I would agree. But I think definitely the midfield.
We don't need to buy any midfield, which is why it kind of bothered me while we were linked with Gallagher, because I was like, what's the point? We don't need anyone else.
But actually, when you watch Conor Gallagher and you watch how he plays for City, and then you see the way Sarr pressed at the weekend, I could see now, more than ever, if we had signed Gallagher, I could see exactly how he'd fit. If that makes sense. Yeah. The last player I want to talk about briefly from the City game is Timo Werner post the goal. It really disappointed me because he should have comfortably had a hat-trick in that game. Comfortably.
You know the one that really annoyed me the most? You know when he was like basically clean through?
And he just hits it straight at the keeper. And it really frustrates me because...
I couldn't believe that one.
The one thing I will say, I'm really, really proud of the Spurs fans. He is a frustrated player, but I'm really, really proud of the Spurs fans for the way they reacted when he scored that goal against City. Not just celebrating a team or celebrating a player scoring, but the stadium erupting with Timo. Like that, for me, one of the biggest things we've both been critical of Spurs fans over the years is sometimes if a squad player comes in and we know they're not the best and they're there to make up the numbers and they're there to allow rotation and they come in and they do something good or whatever. People like Janssen, for example, when Janssen would come in and he'd struggle to put in consistent performances and struggle. Then when he did get a goal, the fans kind of didn't react a lot because they're like, well, it's going to go back to being shit again. Whereas with Werner, everyone was celebrating it. Everyone was up in arms and you could see the smile on his face. And one of the reasons why he was in so many good positions following that was the confidence that brought him. Again, I still stand by what we've said all year. He shouldn't be in a Spurs shirt come the end of the year. And if there's a better option to sign a winger in January and we can let him go as a result of that, I've got no problem with that. But I am really, really proud of us as a fan base reacting like that because at the end of the day, it is a team game. It's a squad game. It's a squad of 25 players, not a team of 11 players. And if we are going to win something this season or we are going to get Champions League football or we are going to end up in Bilbao in May, the only way that's going to happen is if everyone is behind every single player. And it's nice to see for a change that we're not sitting there I'm not celebrating it because a player that I don't like or a player that shit scored. It's nice to see that we're getting behind it.
Every goal. I just don't go ballistic all the time.
No, whereas I go ballistic for football manager goals, let alone Spurs goals. Yeah. Man United in the next round of the Cup, home tie. Obviously, they've got Ruben Alvarez coming in. He's not going to have had a lot of time to work with the squad by the time we play them. How are you feeling for that in terms of the draw?
it depends on what team United put out and also what team we put out, because Amorim, if he's early in his tenure, might be tempted to go all out for the cup to win the fans. Number one, number two, because as you alluded to, he won't know much of his team players, so he might experiment on the other hand, or at the same time, he might want to build some momentum, so he might play like a whole first team. In my opinion, we have to put a strong team as we should put out.
We can,
it's our best chance of a trophy, and we're at home, and our home form has been our saving grace this season, really.
Yeah.
So we should really be winning that game. Like, I still think, even though Amorim might pull like a rabbit out of the hat against us, you just don't know in these games.
We've got enough consistency and stability at home. There's no excuses for not getting a result.
Like 2-1, 3-1. But then we don't know what things are going to be like by then, because it's in December, isn't it? I think.
No, it's in the end of November, I believe.
The end of November.
Possibly. So it might be the 3rd of December or something along those lines. It's close. It's
Chelsea on the 5th, you know. I think it's on the 5th or the 8th.
Oh, maybe it's the midweek before or the midweek after. But he's going to have less than 6 weeks with the team, because he's not joining until after the international break. He's going to have less than 6 weeks with the team. So I think if we can keep building the home form and keep doing the consistent results, then I think there's no excuses.
We've got Ipswich next, though.
As far as I'm concerned, I think I'm happy with Man United in the Cup, because I think it's a chance to prove that our result earlier in the season wasn't just a fluke, and that we can consistently beat these teams. And I remember that week when Brendan Johnson scored at Coventry in the week, and you went, if he does it against United, and then he scored against United, and United were awful. We've said this at the time. United got battered, but we were absolutely, to a man, near on perfect. That was one of the most well-rounded, one of the most complete performances we've seen under Andrew. Both said the same thing. It's 90%. They're not quite 100%, but for us as fans, for what we hope, we're way to a top 6 side.
I valued the Villa win more than the United win, because the Villa for me are like a top 6 side guarantee. United, I'm not looking at United thinking it might change on Amorim, by the way. But like, I'm looking and thinking, they're like a top 6 side now, or.
But what I mean in terms of the opponent,
previous managers to that stadium, like even bloody Sherwood won there, and AVB
eventually.
Sherwood. No, Sherwood won. He was only in for half season. Sherwood, AVB probably beat the best United because of under Ferguson. Obviously, Sherwood beat Moyes. Jose was beaten by Poch. Obviously, Jose won their 6-1. So what I'm saying is, I didn't value that game as high as maybe other people did, because I'd seen us do it, and it wasn't the United of the one I grew up with. Yeah. And I've seen like the top.
I think we still have to put into perspective
with this United. This is why with this United, I think at home we should be winning the game. Really, if we're playing like a Liverpool or an Arsenal,
I was begging for those two to get each other in the draw.
Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle was even quite a tough game.
Southampton, I think.
I mean,
I don't know. Either way, I think
those three. I was more scared to say they've got a Liverpool or an Arsenal.
Yeah. Because I think one of the reasons why I'm happy that we got United is, one, it's the team that we beat at home last year, and we beat them away recently as well. Number two, they're going to go through a transition period. They're going to be learning a whole new tactic, whole new system, and Ange's going to be able to exploit weaknesses in that. Number three, then playing a back three. If they end up playing with slower centre-backs, which I think they probably will do initially, then I think there'll be more space in behind for the likes of Brendan Johnson. So I do think we'll win, and I am happy with the tie, obviously, at the moment, pending the result.
For me, it was just one point that was at home.
Yeah. I think for me, our home tie against one of the better teams in the competition was always going to be beneficial for us, because we said this when we played Chelsea in the Cup in Poch's first season, and we played nobody good until we played Chelsea and we lost.
Like Sheffield United, you mean? I think the semis.
Yeah. No, that was under Jose in the Cup in the build-up. We played somebody else, Brentford, and then we had City in the final. And
I think, didn't we? On the Jose.
Yeah, sorry, because I think Lamella scored. Yeah, but again, that was another example where we only played one difficult team in the build-up. I would be much more confident in if we were to make it to the League Cup final, if we were to play.
We beat Arsenal.
Play United now, then we play Arsenal at home and beat them, and then going into Liverpool in the final. For argument's sake, I'd be much more confident with that than if we played Southampton, Newcastle, and then had Liverpool in the final. I wouldn't back us to win. Do you know what I mean? So I think actually...
the last time we won a trophy, we beat Arsenal in the semis and Chelsea in the final, I remember. I can't remember what the other finals were and stuff, like, off the top of my head. So
I think for us, I think it's a good draw, and I think it sets us up for relatively okay run towards the end of the competition.
Bear in mind with the Carabao Cup, though, also the teams in Europe and the Premier League join later, so we're going to have less games to do it anyway.
But what I mean is, like, so many times in the past, we played the first big team we played in that competition. We've gone out. So I think the fact that we're playing United at this stage, if we do win, I think it will help further boost the confidence and the belief that we can go all the way. So I think that's good for us. On to Sunday, because there's a couple of other non-game related Spurs stuff that I want to talk about. On to Sunday then. First half seemed relatively even. Wasn't a lot between two teams. We probably had the slight better of the possession. I'd say the chances were few and far between for both. The goal we conceded is frustrating because it just seems. I'll be honest with you. The players that we were man marking, I had no problem, and the three players in front of the goalkeeper protecting the goalkeeper was what we've spoken about to protect Vicario. I have no problem, but what those players need to do is when the ball is put in the box, they need to react to who the ball's going to, and if there's three of them protecting Vicario, the minute the ball's in, whoever it is that's next to Vicario, whoever it is that they've left free, they then need to go and target. And I think it shows that there is development on our set pieces because the way we're structuring them defensively, the way we're set out is a lot better and a lot more organised. But it's now down to the individual players to be proactive when the minute the ball's crossed into the box. If you can see the corners going wider or the corners going deeper.
A problem in the team then?
I think a little bit from set pieces, yeah.
Because
I would say
Van der Ven, is he the tallest? I think
Van der Ven's 6'3", 6'4".
Romero's not the tallest, I don't think.
Romero's I think 6'2", but I don't think Romero's jumping reach is all that. No, Draguson's quite tall. I think if we're bringing in another centre half in the summer, which I think we will do, I think it needs to be a 6'4", 6'5" plus. Because I don't actually think now, we said at the start of the season our corner problem was organisation and complete zonal marking. Now we've got the right balance. We haven't looked exploitative from corners. We seem to concede one or two corners. We seem to concede of the corners that the people take against us. We're conceding one every 10, not one every
season. I'm just saying. Two. Arsenal,
okay, which is drastically better than it was last season. But I think we said it from the Arsenal game. We said Arsenal, that was the only corner. Their players switched off. The positioning wasn't incorrect, but the individual players were the problem.
They take a specific type of set piece routine.
Yeah, with Arsenal, which is why
Villa, we just chucked all the tall players. They've got a lot of tall players, to be fair.
Yeah, they just chucked players into the box and hope. And I think, to be honest with you, like I say, the positioning wasn't a problem. The players just need to be a bit more proactive from corners. People sitting there blaming Vicario. I don't think that's anything to do with him, if I'm honest.
With Vicario, I'm not, by the way, I don't totally blame him for that goal.
I don't.
But the problem is teams see it, right? And they see, we're playing Tottenham this week, Vicario's in goal. What are we going to do? We're going to chuck a few players there. It'll cause a bit of mayhem regardless if the players get the ball or not. You know, the opposition.
Yeah.
And
then for the next time there's a corner taken, they're going to be overthinking of where's it going to land? What have I got to overcompensate for?
Yeah. And I think Vicario is his own worst enemy in this sense because I don't know. I just don't think he's commanding enough on set pieces at all.
No, there is improvement from everybody in regards to set pieces, but I just think the individuals now need to stay switched on, need to stay focused, and they need to be proactive. When that ball's put in the box, if you know you've got two people protecting the goalkeeper, that third man needs to go, right, I know Morgan Rogers is unmarked, or I know this player's unmarked. The minute that ball's come in, I'm going to go straight to him. You know? And we've said as well, we said this when one of the corners we conceded last season, that when a player is moving towards the ball, they have more momentum than a player that's standing. If you're moving towards the ball defensively, when the ball's coming into an attacker, you've already got an advantage because they're stationary. So I don't think we're a million miles away from perfecting set pieces. And we have got a lot better. We look a lot more structured. I think, like you've said with a few players, a few individual stuff, time will tell. I think I want to relook at, unless we have any massive stinkers, I want to relook at set pieces again at the end of December and sit there and say, right, these are the numbers now compared to what they were last season. Who have we played? Let's look at a bit more context and just do a deep dive into set pieces over the Christmas period and see the tactical change, because there are clearly improvements.
I mean, we're going to play Liverpool, Chelsea.
So I think if we look at set pieces sort of post Boxing Day, we can sit there and kind of gauge an understanding of how much there is improvement, how much has improved, and because like you say, we've only conceded 2 goals from set pieces this season.
So far, in 10 games.
So far, it is a big improvement, but we just it needs a little bit more work to get it to a stable point where we can stop worrying about set pieces. That second half was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And we'll talk. We spoke about Dom Solanke's pressing on Wednesday, Wednesday. And Dom Solanke's pressing again was absolutely unreal. And this time he got the results. By the way, that first finish.
Oh, you mean
the chip? Unbelievable. The composure to go for a goal and hit that. It was just insane. And I want to talk about first of all, Son obviously went off in the 55th minute. I'm a little bit disappointed in the way he reacted, because he always knew and said to him, that,
I don't know if you saw the TV.
I saw his reaction. I saw his reaction.
Yeah. And we were there because I was talking to my dad about it, because we saw it, because I saw Son wasn't walking off. I saw his number. I was like, what's going on? And I looked, and I'm like, he's pointing to himself saying, me?
What frustrated me the most was the fact that Ange turned around and said he told him he was only going to be playing 60 minutes because of fitness.
And he's frustrated. Yeah.
I think Son was more frustrated at the fact that we weren't in control of the game at that point when he went off. And he was worried that we weren't going to go on and make the difference.
I don't think it was that. I think it's more simple than that. I think he just wants to play. Like Harry Kane, some players just want to play. I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying it's wrong, by the way. I'd rather have a player that actually wants to play football.
Yeah, of course,
But I think for you, it was just that. I'm just judging because I was there. That's how I.
I definitely don't think there needs to be an overreaction to it.
He's going to let down he knew he was going to play 6 minutes, but as a player, he just came back from injury. Bear in mind as well. Yeah, so I want to play. Like Kane used to patch himself up. Son used to patch himself up.
Yeah, Kane used to come back at 60% fitness just for the sake of playing.
But Son was the same though, because he played injured, didn't he, for like a bit of the season?
Yeah, he played injured for ages.
So because he just wanted to play, because players want to play. Don't forget, they do have a very short career. So
and especially at this stage at Tottenham, where there is a real possibility that we could do something special this season. I think he doesn't want. All right, but there's a possibility anyone could do anything special at the start of the season. But I think he just wants to make sure that if we have that chance, he gets us over the line.
He gets to play.
He doesn't want to live with that regret that I could have done that last bit, and I don't think he will. And I was really impressed with him actually against Villa. He looked sharp. His ball was unbelievable.
It was an unbelievable cross, though. I don't think he was that great, because I don't think he was really taking on cash that much. But his cross was ridiculous.
Unreal. And something we spoke about last season about the reason why.
I think you and me probably could have buried that. It was that accurate.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. And talk about pinpoint.
I don't know if you saw the picture. Solanke was running in as well. I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
They're both just running to get on the end of it for him.
Well, no matter what, someone was getting on the end of that.
Yeah.
I think the thing that impressed me the most, and we said it at the start of the season, that last season there were so many times where if a player on the left was on the ball, we'd have the striker and one midfielder, but the player from the right would never come into the box, and vice versa on the other side. We said it after the Everton game that every time the ball was on the left, Brennan Johnson was central, and the striker was central, and the attacking midfielder was central. And when the ball was on the right,
in Johnson's, I'm coming with him defending Johnson for a second, but at Forest, he did play as a second striker almost.
Second striker,
I think it is in his nature, which is why I don't like him as a winger, to play in field. A lot, because he's just his nature. It's if I was playing on the right wing a lot, and suddenly you told me, Harry, you're playing as a number 10, by nature, and you even see this a bit with Kulusevski, you're going to drift because you're so used to the area of the pitch. And I think with Johnson, especially because of his age and whatever, I think he naturally does. I want to see Johnson get the ball and go past defenders, because that's what I know wingers can do. But he tends to drift in a lot. But obviously, he's got on the end of stuff where
he's got on the end of a fair few chances now. And I think this is the thing as well. I think when you kind of imagine the pictures like a a smaller rectangle inside the width of the pitch that when your left player's there, it put people who are on Spotify can't see the visuals, but I've got hand movements and stuff.
Yeah.
When your left player's there, everyone's pulled further central when the player on the left's got the ball.
But this is what Conte did at Chelsea with his wing backs. He wanted one of them to be slight when the other one had the ball when put it across it.
The other one was making him run to the back post to be an extra body in the box. A great finish, like I say, fantastic. I thought Brendan Johnson played really, really well. Then we talk about obviously Son.
That great. I think his goal was all right, but I just don't think he had a great game.
I think he played well in terms of pressing.
Where we won the game because the first half of midfield was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I'll talk about the assists before the assist in a second. But Richarlison coming on, thought he did really well. Great pass.
Yeah, I was surprised how good he was on the left.
Really, really well reading of the game. Great pass for Solanke, and he can't miss that.
Yeah.
Next goal, I want to talk about a player, and you're not going to like this, but he deserves massive credit. When he came on, Ben Davies was absolutely brilliant.
No. You know what? People are going to sound mad me listening to this, but I want Ben Davies to start over Romero, so I'm sick of this guy now. I'm tired of Romero.
Well, I want to talk about Romero after we've spoken about the game properly, so we'll say that for a minute.
At least Davies, to his credit, he's left-footed, so it does actually, for me, it makes the defence more balanced. Yeah. And even if Romero comes back, I'm done with the geezer.
Hold on. It's taken 7 years. Harry's finally praised Ben Davies. This is unbelievable. Clip it. Reap it. You'll never see anything like it ever again.
Because of the way we play, right? Also, I just think
having a left-footed centre-half is so important. I think
Davies takes less liberties. The problem with Romero is when I watch him, right, he just decides to run up the pitch. I'm like, mate.
Right, could we pause the Romero talk? Because I have a lot to say on him. Okay. I want to finish talking about the Villa game. But Ben Davies, the way he pressed for that goal.
It was actually a decent partnership.
Yeah. The way Ben Davies pressed for the goal and won that ball back, Sarr, absolutely, he was just, I think it proves that we need to play with Bentancur and Sarr or Basuma with one of the two attacking midfielders, because Sarr, the running power is unbelievable. I've actually got some stats. I screenshotted this. I'm not really a stat man, right? But I screenshotted this because I wanted to mention it. On Sunday, Son made 13 recoveries, 3 clearances, 1 block, 1 headed clearance, 2 interceptions. He was only dribbled past once.
Sorry, did you say Sarr, right?
Sarr, sorry. He was just absolutely...
Well, he was my man of the match, to be honest. I mean, I wanted every streamer said the same thing. But for me, Sarr, we spoke last season about how he had no end product, let's say.
He's improving so much.
He's actually got assists and goals, so I can't sit here and say he's not.
No.
But also, for me, the Bentancur Sarr Kulusevski midfield is something I've been calling for bloody ages. So, because obviously, I like Bentancur in the 6th the most, personally.
Yeah. Bentancur and Sarr complement each other so much.
I like the whole holder, runner, and and then
holder, runner, final third passer almost. Yeah. You've got that balance, and all 3 are capable of doing all 3, but you've got more distinguished positions, and I think.
But Kulusevski, also another thing why I like the Bentancur Kulusevski Sarr thing is because Bentancur and Kulusevski actually played in midfield for Juve together for a period. So
listen, right, you've mentioned that 3 podcasts in a row. Can we not make it 4 after this? Yeah.
Huh?
No, I don't disagree with you. Actually, I think they kind of had a pre-understanding of what each player was capable of. Don't get me wrong, no one thought Kulusevski, well, maybe you've said it a few times, but no one thought Kulusevski was going to hit, not this high. We thought you wanted to try him centrally, but nobody thought he was going to be as good as he is. He's in for our player of the season. He could honestly be in for Premier League player of the season if he keeps going the way he's going, because he's running, his physical power is unbelievable. And that goal we scored where Ben Davies won the ball into Sarr, it epitomised exactly how the press of Ange should be at all times. And I understand that we're not at it consistently enough yet, and we may never get there. Hopefully we will. We may never get there. But after the conversation we had last week, and I can't believe I views that video as well, by the way. And
I haven't seen it, so.
The argument on where we had last week, to sit there and see what Ange would probably say is a perfect Ange goal, I just really think that there is so much more to come from this team with the right players, additions, the right changes, and Ange to continue to grow, because the biggest criticism, and you said it more heavily than me, but we both said it at the end of last season, was he was too afraid to adapt to certain situations. We're starting to see a little less of the inverted sometimes. We're starting to see players take up different positions. We're starting to see players play different roles and go, do you know what, actually, that might not be what I envisioned for you, but you are a bit better than that. I'm going to put you as this, and I'm going to give you the trust and give you the faith. And rather than just being stubborn and going, no, I visioned you as a winger, so you're staying as a winger, he's actually adapting and moving. And that was one of your biggest criticisms. And it's nice to see that it's not just 1 or 2 games. It's starting to become a more consistent thing. If he sees that 2 Whitefoots... No, go on.
Like we said, it was either do or die with him. Either he was going to go in the middle. I think it was gone.
He was gone, yeah.
And I was going to say... God, I was saying another thing he did in the second half, which I really liked, and I actually put a comment in the Spurs group at half time about it. And in the end he did it, so I can't complain. But he moves on a bit in field and he pushes Dowie a bit further wide, at least on that side. And about the other side, because I couldn't really tell, because Poro tends to go inside a lot now. But I think he was more in field still, and Johnson was more like outside. But at least on the left hand side, he put Johnson further in. And Udogie was taking a bit wider positions. And I think that's kind of what resulted in the goal, because I know he wasn't completely wide or completely in field, but he's kind of in the area where he was just slightly inside.
Yeah, he was close enough to the box to get a better quality ball in.
Yeah, rather than
having to hit it even harder and not bending as much, going into keeper's arms. And then obviously you've got the Solanke chip, was just, first of all as well, having Brennan Johnson and Kulusevski in that situation, the angle Brennan Johnson was at, he had no clear ball through, right? For him to allow Brennan Kulusevski to take that part, make that pass, shows the confidence and belief these players have in each other. And it's so important when you're playing this style of football to be a team, to be a unit. I don't see any single player in this team that goes, I want the goals, I want the assists. You look at certain teams, not mention any names, you look at certain teams in the Premier League, you've got certain individuals that are about the goals, about the assists, about the headlines for themselves. Brennan Johnson not trying to play that pass and seeing Kulusevski was in a better position to feed it through. What a ball, by the way. That is literally the run from Solanke, and that pass was absolutely spot on. I couldn't have drawn it on a page with a ruler.
I couldn't tell because all the defenders stopped.
I thought he was offside, but I've watched it so many times. It's literally exactly perfect.
And
then the finish.
Is it literally on the line? I haven't seen the replay, so.
Yeah, and then the finish.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And I think the fact that he worked his arse off and ran as much as he did this week and ended the week on 2 goals, I'm so happy for him, because it's nice. We said this, and we said that our worry about Harry Kane going was, were we going to replace Kane's goals? We're not going to replace Kane's goals in one player, but what we are doing is we're playing better as a collective unit. Goals and assists are coming from everywhere. They're coming from midfield. They're coming from attacks. They're coming from the wings. They're coming from fullbacks. And we're really, really starting to see Tottenham progress as a unit. And we said it last season, or I said it last season, that if we score 70, 80 goals, you're going to be there or thereabouts no matter what. Not only of our defensive numbers, the chances we create giving away have dropped. The quality of the chances we're giving away have dropped. The goals conceded have dropped. And we're still maintaining, if not exceeding, the goals we were scoring last season. Rather than our goal difference sitting like this, like it was last season, we're slowly seeing it bridge that gap. If we can continue to keep those goal scoring numbers up, and we can continue to improve the defence and continue to make these small micromanaging changes that are making a world of difference, it's only going to be positive for us. And then we'll be sat there, hopefully, at the end of the season, sitting there going, do you know what, we are only... I can't believe we're going to say this after I slandered you for it last week, but we are only a couple of players away from being where we need to be.
Oh no, it's fine. We answers, guys. It's fine. No.
And the other thing as well, the last time we've scored a free kick was Christian Eriksen in 2018.
Was it 4 years ago?
2018. 6 years. What a free kick!
Yeah. He had no chance.
No, keeper had no chance. The ball was hit with so much pace, so much power, so much spin.
He thinked it so well.
The one thing I will say with Maddison is I was always concerned about if he started to play more of a rotational role or a situational role. So, right, this is a game where we know we're going to absolutely batter someone. Let's play with 2 attacking midfielders. Or this is a game where we need a balance. Maddison, your drop, Sarr, you're in. Is he going to keep the same work rate and the same focus? And you could see the energy he had when he came on. You could see how much the goal meant to him. His celebration was fantastic. And do you know what? It wrapped off what really was a fantastic birthday for Unai Emery.
was actually his birthday.
It was his birthday on Sunday, yeah. I just think, for me, it was such a good performance.
Well, I think
And
with Madison coming on is the difference is he has a point to prove now because Kulusevski's basically taking his place. Since
yeah,
West Ham half time, we got raked off the Sar. We
yeah,
played our midfielders looked so much better, and
yeah.
um, and like I said, I feel like he corrected the mistake. But on the following games after that, we had hard games. So for me, you're not playing Madison with Kulusevski anyway with a DM. Like you can't. We had
Yeah.
City, we had Villa.
There will be a time and a place to play the two together, but it's going to be few and far between.
I think it's a good shout to play in both, maybe, because we should have most of the ball. And yeah, but like we got Galatasaray away midweek.
No, I'd go with 3 holding midfielders if it was me personally. 3
Just do
holding midfielders, Riot Shields, jobs are good.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that game next week because obviously it's midweek. It would have
But what I'm trying
played
to say
before
is,
this goes out.
yeah. So like, I think that midfield three for me is the one I just want to see.
Yeah, I think we're slowly starting to see the Spurs start 11 nailed on now, which, considering last season we were so unsure about so many players, it didn't look like Bentancur was going to get back up to fitness again. It just shows that maybe both of us, but Harry's predominantly, sometimes need a little bit more patience. That doesn't mean you can't criticise players. It doesn't mean you can't expect better or ask for better. But actually, a couple of players that we would have had no patience with, or we would have said that's them done. For me, it was Bentancur. For you, it was Kulusevski unless he played centrally. For you, it was Brendan Johnson last season. We're starting to really see as this unit, as this unit becomes more well drilled, as it becomes more well oiled, as it becomes more fluid, we're starting to see reap the rewards of that. And I'm really,
for me, it's partly because of his positional change. Because if you played him as a box to box now, I'd be quite worried he wouldn't have the legs for it. And I think because I've seen this a lot with. Obviously, he's had injuries. This is why he's doing this, by the way. I don't think it's because of age. But you look at players like Pirlo or all these players who play further up the pitch, a lot of them do end up further back, right? Because they lost the energy they had. But obviously, this has been quite a lot earlier in his career, but he's had these ACLs and his injuries. So I for his own career
protection almost.
Protection, whatever, he's almost kind of has to play there. Unless we have like a crazy emergency, but I still think he's our best option for the sixth anyway. Yeah. We don't play with the sixth, but you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Sar's literally got the best engine we have, so
yeah, Sar's is running power is unbelievable.
So it's good. And obviously Kulusevski, I didn't think it'd be this good anyway.
It's nice to see though that some of the biggest criticisms about players, Sar's end product last season, Brendan Johnson not being central enough and the ball's crossed in. There are so many individual things that we spoke about with individual players last season when we did the end of season review. And it's nice to see that so many of those things are starting to be worked on and not just worked on, but Sar's exceeded what I expected of him this season so far. Based on how his end to last season was and the fact that he didn't have a quick start.
For me as well, because I didn't expect him to be here. That's probably why I'm saying that. Yeah. But I thought he's just wasting him out on the wing last season. Don't forget, guys, I got kicked out of Spurs group for shouting Kulusevski playing in the middle when he's not a winger. But anyway, that's a discussion for another story. But anyway, I was going to say, the thing with us though is our away form is not great still, and this is an issue we had on the Martin Yole as well, by the way. So that's why I always see. I view Ange as like another Martin Yole, not in a bad way, by the way. Like I'm saying the same sort of level. Except I think Yole worked with worse players, and unless we dropped 400 million with Ange, by the way. So for me, that we're still that level. If you want me to start thinking of Ange as like a Poch or even a Redknapp,
then we need to start
doing better in away games. Number one.
But the one thing I would say on that though is one that comes with trial and error in players in positions, and I think now we're playing 2 holding midfielders, so to speak. Not really holding midfielders, but two more defensive-minded midfielders than they are attacking-minded. I think we'll have a bit more stability in away games, number one.
Like
I think number two...
Another thing when I've seen in away games, is that, some away games, or a lot of away games, you have to drop a bit deeper, right? Yeah. And also what I didn't like is his comments before Brighton, for example, where he said, they asked him, so you teams play the similar way, what are you going to do anything different? I can't remember that question. Him. No, we're here to entertain and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you do not do that. Like, and the thing with that game that pissed me off so much is that the Brighton bloody went 3-2 up and they dropped off. They dropped deep. In away games, you have to play a different way. I don't think you can play the same way in home games you do in away games. there are going to be a lot more instances where you're going to not have the ball, and you have to soak up pressure and play a bit further back, or just be a bit stronger. And I think it worries me because we have so many young players. Is if you're not going to bring in, not Roy Keane, obviously they don't exist, but like a real leaders in there, then you look at the manager to lead the players because we do have a lot of young players. And I look at Ange on touchline, and
I think the one thing I would say in terms of away games is I think when a manager comes into a club, first and foremost, they need to get their best 11 decided. And I think we're slowly getting to that point now. Once that's done, your home form needs to be unstoppable. It needs to be consistent. It needs to be high pressure, high intensity. It needs to be getting results. It needs to be scoring goals. And we're starting to get that. As that continues to be stable to the point where we're maybe only dropping points in 3 home games of the season, then as a result of that and that consistency, the away form will naturally start to improve. Once it gets to a certain point with the away form, then that's where, to get the away form to the next step, the tactical changes will need to come in for games like Brighton.
And this is what my dad always says when I was growing up, is when obviously I was a lot younger then, I watched a lot less football. So in the home games, my dad goes, you have to win your home games, you're at home, advantage, blah, blah. But in your away games, especially if you can't win the game, you're better off leaving with a point than nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the issue I think I have with us, is that Ange just has this mentality still away from home that you have to be so open.
It almost like he feels like there are no away games.
No, as in like he treats
it like a home game.
No. He treats every game the same. So what I'm saying is he doesn't distinguish the fact that you're playing in a very different environment. For example, it's like, okay. Only example. Say you go to a bar constantly, and in this bar you can pick up girls, for example, right? But then one week,
this is a miracle bar.
It's only something I can think of off the top of my head. But then you go to some other bar in central London, and you're like, I don't know this bar very well. I don't come here every week, like the Spoons or something. Like, it's a different environment, yeah? And then you go the next week to another bar, and no, because this is actually a natural thing, yeah? Like, I've not done reading about this. So because you're in a different environment, you don't have the same sort of, energy or confidence as well as another thing. And this is kind of like sort of home and away. So it's a place you go like always, you're more comfortable just naturally, right? But it's a place you're going, once a year, or twice a year maybe, if you're in a cup game, it's a totally different environment. So the players have to learn, and the manager has to learn to adapt to a different environment. And the problem is, when I look at Ange, I don't see any difference. And the thing is, and I allude to this when I talk about Martin Yol, because Martin Yol recognised this problem. He even used to talk about it. Our away form was a massive problem. And he sort of fixed it. I mean, we finished 5th twice. We missed out on top 4 because of lasagna one year. But it was a massive thing, I remember. And we eventually started fixing it, let's say. We got more wins than we did. But the good thing about Martin Yol is we'll go to these bigger sides like the Chelsea under Jose, for example, and we wouldn't play so open. We'd drop off a lot and try and not play for a point exactly, but we would happy if we left with a point. If some miracle happened and, we managed to grab a goal on the break or something, we'd try and keep it, let's say, because we know we're playing a high-level team. But nowadays, because the teams are all quite... I think there's a lot more teams in the league who are quite at the same level, but then you obviously have the top teams, and then you have the teams where I expect us to get 3 points, away to Ipswich. Sure.
So I've got a couple of different things to take from what you've just said. I don't actually disagree, number one. Number two is the king of analogies. I'm quite proud of that. Number three... If you're trying to pick up girls in bars and spoons, then that's probably explains why you're single. Number three,
I'll give you an example as to what.
Number three is, or number four is.
Maybe other guys watching this will understand this.
No, I know what you mean. Your analogy's not wrong. It's just fun to take the piss out of you. You set me up for the volley. One thing I would say is, I think Ange in his mind sees our ceiling, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I think he sees our ceiling as the most dominant team in the league. Right? I think he truly believes, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. I think he truly believes that he can make us the most dominant team in the league. Now, my argument to understand why I disagree ever so slightly with your away form, at the moment, I'd agree with your approach. However, in the long term, Man City don't go to an away side hoping for a point. They go to a wayside playing their way to 110%.
City are like, man, got
No,
Haaland.
let me finish. And they
Ronaldo Silva.
expect that they're playing their way because that's the way Pep wants to play and that's the way he believes in. That if he plays it to 110%, you'll beat the opponent no matter what ground you were in. And I know that doesn't always work. And I know even City can go away to teams that are capable of losing, not just like your Bournemouth, lol, your higher pedigree teams in Europe as well. But I think that's Ange's long-term plan is to go to teams and go, Old Trafford, what's Old Trafford's? We're better than them. We go out there, you go out there, lads, and you play 110%. Unless we are robbed, we'll win. I think that's what he's trying to instill in the players. And I understand in the short term, what you're saying is absolutely spot on, that we do need to have that.
That would actually help the confidence of the players if we weren't going to teams and losing. That's what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, I think there's a fine balance. I think we're not.
What I'm trying to say is there's going to be instances or periods in games where, especially away from home, where you're going to have to be strong, right? And mentally strong. And for example, I say like the Newcastle game is 1-1, right? I would happy would have settled for a point, yeah. But he didn't drop the line, yeah.
But that's the difference between you and Ange. Is Ange wants to instill the mentality. He would rather lose away to Newcastle 3 years straight, and by year 4 go into it going, we are going to win no matter what and get a win, than settle for a point 3 years in a row and never ever be able to achieve more than the point. And I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. At the current stage where this Tottenham team's at, where our squad quality is at, I do not disagree with you. But I think in the medium to long term,
any team would batter them. Like
I think in the medium to long term, it does more damage relying on accepting a point than it does going, we're going to win.
What question I'll ask you then, because you say we don't have the good squad quality for it. Do you think our first 11 will change so drastically over the next couple of years? Assuming Ange stays, by the way.
I think it will change more than what we realise.
But I'm saying, and the reason I ask this is because, for example, Solanke, is he going to be our striker for the next 3 years, for example?
Yes. If he doesn't develop an injury problem, then yes. Yeah.
So then if we're assuming Solanke's a certain level and Haaland's like another level, are we ever going to have that high quality player?
But Haaland...
It's just...
No, it's a good question. It's a good question. I think the problem we're having when you make that comparison is the players that we are comparing it to are the pinnacle of the pinnacle of the pinnacle. Only a handful of clubs in the world ever get hold of those players. And I think, for example, like Jota's played a lot through the middle for Liverpool right now.
Yeah.
If you compare Jota to Solanke, in 5 years' time, will Solanke be way above the level of Jota's best level? I truly believe he will. And I think if we play the system to the best way possible, as efficiently as possible, everyone working in the way they need to work, I truly think his numbers and his pressing and whatever will exceed the level of players that are already above him now. That are just above him or in and around him now. I think, so what I think, so imagine it as the Premier League table, right? You've got your title winner, your Haaland, Mbappe, Kane, Ronaldo, not Ronaldo now, but you know what I mean. You've got your top 4 players that are great when they're consistent, but not all that. Right now, you Benjamin Sesko's. I'd probably put Robert Lewandowski in that category because he's like 38 now. He's fallen off a little bit. Those kind of players. Then you've got your 8th to 5th, right? Your players that could push into the world-class bracket if you get the absolute best out of them and they stay injury-free, but you expect them to be the best of the rest. I would say that's the category Dom Solanke falls into.
I think that's the issue because all these high-level teams have like 2 or 3 world-class players.
But what I'm saying is the gap between Solanke and those strikers that are 4th and 3rd, I don't think is closable. Yeah, whereas the gap between Solanke and the Haaland, that gap is too big. But in saying that, unless something falls into our lap, we're not going to bridge that gap. And 95, it's not just Tottenham, 95% of teams in Europe are not going to bridge that gap.
If Ange is saying title, and this is, I'm used to someone telling me this, by the way, as well now.
Yeah.
And you're going to need 2 or 3 world-class. It doesn't even have to be the striker. You can sign 2 world-class wingers.
But this is where I'm saying to you, you use the argument, you pick Solanke as your first example. Do I think Solanke will still be here? No, it's not wrong. Do I think Solanke will still be here playing that role, starting in 5 years' time? Yes. Do I think Son will be starting in 5 years' time? No. Do I think Brennan Johnson will be starting in 5 years' time? No, I think he'll be a squad player. So that's two examples. I think he'll be a squad player, yeah. He'll be one of those players that, like, he's too good to be a squad player, but he's not as good as a starter will have. And I think in those kind of positions, I'm popular opinion here, and I'm going to say this now while he's in a bad run of form, so I might regret this. But I also think that I trust Ange enough and I trust his recruitment enough that whoever we do bring in to rotate with Udogie next year, if Udogie's form continues to be inconsistent, I think either that will push Udogie to the next level or that'll be someone who pushes us to a next level and Udogie becomes a rotation. And he's another example. He'd be too good to be on our bench. But if he's happy to stay as a squad player and we're trying to build a title-winning team, that's what you need to do. We've often turned around and said that Spurs go and sign a player 2 or 3 levels below our starter, so there will never, ever be more than a squad player.
Yeah, exactly.
It's starting to feel like we're building a squad and then we'll go and bring in a starter and then push Son to the bench and then Werner goes. And then we'll go and bring in a starter to replace Brennan Johnson and Brennan Johnson will rotate to the bench and I don't know, there's not really the rotation wingers, but whoever will go. And then, we bring in a player to rotate with Udogie and then whoever has the best form goes in, but we've got a backup option if they go in. I think I can see an actual timeline, providing Levy doesn't become stay as a stingy cunt. But let's be realistic. Right now, Andrew's been given what he says he wants. So let's assume So let's assume that continues. Then I can see a timeline in the next 2 summers where those changes happen. I really can. And at that point then, we've kind of moved the squad from players that are in that 5th bracket that might become 3rd or 2nd to 5 players that are in that 3rd or 4th and 6 players that are in that 5th to 4th and then squad players that are in that 6th to 5th to 4th. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the whole overall squad. Do you know what I mean? And I think we will see that gap. Obviously, like we say, the Haalands and Mbappés, that first one in terms of category of players, if we're ranking players, is unachievable for 99% of clubs in Europe. And I think what we need to accept the fact is you can buy players that start out 5th, that have the ability to be 2nd or 3rd or 4th. And I think Solanke is one of those players where we get everything around him right. And I think that's the kind of changes we're going to see coming forward.
For example, I'm only comparing it because, for example, I look at the old Chelsea side that Jose had. He had like Makelele, he had Robben, he had Drogba. He had these very world-class players. And also John Terry at the back. I hate to say his name, but he was world-class.
He was unbelievable, yeah.
You look at Liverpool side, they won the title. They went out and bought Alisson and Van Dijk and etc. And they bridged the gap because they had 2 or 3 Salah in that front line. Especially Salah, but like 2 very, 2 or 3 top class, world class players. And for me, that's always where Spurs fall short, where we don't go out and buy 2 or 3 players that I hate to bring up.
What you're saying is you think we'll go and sign players that are 4th to 5th that could be 2nd or 3rd, rather than going and signing players that are already 2nd.
I don't think I have to sign the whole team of 11.
My only counterpoint to that is if you look at Liverpool, if Salah gets injured, who do they start on the right?
They've got a lot of options, so I don't know.
But those are the gap between Salah, who's in that number 1 category, and the next players.
Any player that's behind him, though.
But what I'm saying to you is if we do it the way I think we're going to do it, the drop-off between our starters and our rotation isn't going to be that drastic. But I think
you're right. But then you'll never have those 2 or 3 players, in my opinion, that's going to win.
I think though, you look at Arsenal. Arsenal don't have. I hate to bring it up because I slandered you last week bringing Arsenal up, but by the way, nice score at the weekend, Arsenal. Hey, I don't know why you've been listening to this one. Anyway, I think when you look at Arsenal and you look at they take Marcelli off, they take Trossard off. They've got 2 players of the exact same ability. They take Saka off. They haven't got even a 7th or 8th or 9th level option.
But then the problem is, it's like if, say, Arsenal got Chiesa instead of no one, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, obviously, drop-off's going to be massive because Saka, some people classify him as world-class, along with Saliba. That's the because I give them, the world-class. But for me, the area they're missing is clearly up front. It's not a mystery. Everyone knows this. Because they've got Havertz up front. But But the thing is that there's always going to be a massive drop off, but the drop off wouldn't be so like they had who plays on the cover for them? Is it Sterling or something? He's
At the
basically
moment, yeah, who barely plays for them, to be fair.
He's basically finished really anyway in his career. Like he's so old now. But if they say someone like a Chiesa or someone like you look at Liverpool, they've got wingers. They've got Nunez, who play there as well. Jota. I can't remember their attack. They got 6 attackers. Gakpo, that's the one. Gakpo. They got 6 attackers, but I can't remember their names. And that's got on the top of my head. Like they have, I think 6 attackers or something.
The thing is, like this is my point, right? And I think Spurs will build an overall well. You said it a while ago, where you said that you don't think the gap between Solanke and Richarlison is that good, is that big. Now, while I think Solanke couldn't push that 3rd, 4th category quite comfortably, Richarlison can't, but Richarlison can move into that 5th. Category. Yeah. So having a striker who's 3rd and a striker who's 5th is better than having a striker who's in the 1st category and a striker who's 7th in the category, because if that world-class player becomes injured, you are fucked. And I would rather have a squad where Spurs have a player who's 3rd in ability starting and a player who's 5th in ability for rotation.
For example, you look at Poch's side and we spoke about the bench, but for example, you drop off Kane was just ridiculous.
Yeah, the drop off between Kane and Vincent Janssen was just absurd.
That was like the issue in that sense. But the thing is, if we have these high level players still, like you mentioned, like even we've got Mikey Moore coming through as well, on the left. But say like you had midfield's okay, but say in defence you had a Dogi, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
the left back you bought was like I don't know, world class something.
Yeah,
the drop wouldn't be so big because Adogi's like a really good player. Let's say.
Well, what you do need to remember though, to
I'm
build
not going to world class. It's just a position I picked.
No. I don't disagree. The one thing I would say with that is you have to be cautious when you're building a squad of depth at the level Tottenham are, where you're not guaranteed to win trophies. And this is another example about those 1% of clubs. Only 1% of clubs in the world can have a world class player starting and a player where the drop off isn't significant rotating. Only your Real Madrid, even PSG now, right? Nuno Mendes and Hakimi aren't. Well, Hakimi, I'd say, is probably still in the world class bracket. Nuno Mendes isn't. But if you take those rotation out, left back's Luis Hernandez, who's a cover for centre back, and right back was Mukiele a few years ago. That drop off's humongous. So if we're talking about clubs like PSG having that kind of drop off, then I think for Tottenham, having a player who's 3rd, 4th ability wise starting, and a player who's 5th, 6th ability-wise rotating over the course of the entire squad will make our game management so much better.
My issue is that I think all these teams that win titles have like 2 or 3 world-class players. That's the only thing Poland.
They do, but I would also say that
you either have to like breed one, which Spurs have been doing for monetary reasons for the past few years. Like we had Bale and Kane.
Okay, let me ask you this question though. Because we spoke a couple of weeks ago. Let me ask you this question because we spoke a couple of weeks ago about the 40 to 50 million pound bracket being kind of Spurs' the 35 to 45 million pound bracket being Spurs' sweet spot.
Even 65 million on Slank, I don't consider.
No, two seconds before I forget. So we spoke a few weeks ago about the 35 to 45 million pound bracket being where Spurs get the most value for transfers. Kulusevski fell into that bracket. He isn't right this second, but at 23 years old, if he continues this trajectory for the next 2 years, you'd have to put him in the world-class bracket. So there's nothing to suggest that a player Spurs sign that is in your 5th or 6th bracket, and it's not going to happen all the time. But what I'm saying is if you find yourself that you've actually signed a player who's pushed himself into the 3rd, 2nd bracket, all of a sudden, then when you bring in a guy who's in the 4th or the 5th bracket, you've kind of got that already then. And we're not going to get as lucky with players all the time. But you only need, I'd say, one attacker, one midfielder, one defender that fall into that category. I think Van der Ven will be that for the defence. If Kulusevski's that for the midfield and Solanke's that for the attack, if we've got level 4, level 5 category players in all the other rotation positions, we're not a million miles away from what you're saying anyway.
Like I said, like the wingers is like something where I would go out and sign to like absolutely world class, especially if you're saying Solanke's a certain kind of striker, right? Where he puts on the end of things. He's not Kane. I wasn't expecting Solanke to be Kane, by the way. Like I didn't measure him to Kane because a lot of people.
I didn't expect him to be the fucking road runner either, by the way. But fucking been.
No, but a lot of people did talk about his pressing. I just didn't see
I didn't think it would be that. I knew it'd be good, but I didn't think it'd be that
good.
Yeah, it's just been ridiculous.
But yeah, so like there's a lot of issues still to fix. It's just whether, like, for example, I'm just treating us as like, even under Martin Joel, we had Michael Carrick, who some may argue end up being world class later on. Berbatov, who, yeah, I think the guy was world class. But then we had Defoe and Keane, who I love Defoe, bro. By the way, I loved him so much, but I don't consider Defoe as world class. He was like third, fourth, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but Berbatov for me was like, but then obviously he left. And under Harry Redknapp, also we had Bale in the end. But then the problem is that these players, they might develop into these top brackets, but Spurs, we don't finish the team off. And that's the
This is my point, though, right? So let's use Kulusevski as an example. We brought Maddison in to start over Kulusevski. Kulusevski's outperformed Maddison this season. If he continues his current trajectory, he's going to be in that third,
probably around
bottom
there.
Second bracket. Maddison's still going to be in that fourth or fifth, maybe third or fourth bracket. So in this situation, we signed a player thinking they were going to be better. It allowed one of the players we already had with outstanding potential to be starting to push his ceiling, which gave us what we wanted without having to go and sign the world-class player. Without paying the world-class fee, we still paid a good fee, and the two players were so competitive with each other's positions that it's excelled the performance of both, giving us that thing. If we do that...
23 or whatever, 20, because obviously I'm alluding to Poch's team, right? Obviously, we're looking at Wijnaldum, Mane,
Ward-Prowse.
Batshuayi as well. So, we signed those three that summer, we would have had a really good midfielder to complement Wanyama and Dembele.
Yeah.
You didn't have a drop-off till we're there. Then you would have had, our attack was pretty much finished, but Mane on one side, Son on the other, or Ericsson and Dele Alli. You only used to rotate on that desk.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, you'd had Kane. The drop-off wouldn't have been so catastrophic. So it would have, I think...
It still would have been massively significant, obviously, but
I know,
pretty much anybody in the world with him. So
he was world-class, but then I think him was probably the only world-class player we had that side. I know Alderweireld and Vertonghen were there, but I don't know if they were world-class. I don't know, it's hard to...
But okay, let me use this as an example.
At the time, but I don't know. But
you've just given a good example. No, but you've just given a good example though with talking about Jan Vertonghen. We spoke about obviously after the first three games that Kevin Wimmer played when he came in. It didn't feel like the drop-off was there, but Kevin Wimmer, on paper and over the majority of his Spurs career, you'd have put him in that sixth or seventh bracket player.
I liked him a lot. I was quite excited.
And Jan Vertonghen, you'd have put him in that that fourth bracket player, really. I think for the majority of his career, he had times where he was up there and he had times where he was slightly lower. I think for the blanket,
he probably wasn't world class.
Yeah, I think for a blanket, I think I put Jan at the fourth mark. It allowed. When Wimmer was, after Kevin Wimmer came in and he had an amazing run, when Jan came back, Jan was better than he was before that.
Yeah.
And I think if we get I think it's less about ability at this stage and as much about character. I think if you get the right characters in and they can push the players you've already got to their absolute potential, and those players are rotating, and if there's a drop-off of one, the other's improving, there's a drop-off of the other's improving, I think you really can build such a well-rounded squad without costing an arm and a leg to do so. And I think based on what we've seen so far and the rotation levels we're seeing between players so far, there is really the potential for that. And a player I want to talk about specifically there, actually, that fits into this category perfectly is Dragusin. When he got sent off a couple of weeks ago, we know we spoke about the pass already, the pass not been great. But we spoke about his rashness, we spoke about the fact that he didn't always look composed, even in the games after that he played, he didn't look composed. You look at the way he played when he came on against Villa, he was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant.
I watched some more Dragusin, to be honest. But
I'd agree with you. Now, 8 weeks ago, that wasn't what we were saying. So we're already seeing an example of a player we brought in who is that fifth to sixth category player who was linked with the likes of Bayern Munich, whatever, has come to us to start, has pushed the player in his position, and now we're sitting there going, actually, do you know what? We're literally describing an exact example of what we've just spoken about that we want to happen with the whole squad. We're just describing an exact example of that that's currently happening. And I think, yes, it's only one example. Well, it's two because of Maddison and Kulusevski. It's three because of Bentancur and Basuma. When you actually start to look at it, we've got so many players that are either side of the 4 mark, some maybe a 4 and some maybe a 5, that are pushing each other. And as you do that, the overall quality of both is going to naturally improve. So you're actually probably going to end up with 1-3 and 1-4 player per position by the end, and not 1-5 and 1-4, as long as the players have the patience and the motivation to push each other. And this current group of players really looks like they do.
We'll see what happens. Yes,
we'll see what happens, but this is the most positive squad-related conversation I think we've had in a long time. And I'm about to ruin it by saying Christian Romero, I'm really pissed off with you at the moment. So... But to end off that section, I honestly think that's probably one of the most detailed, analytical, like squad planning conversations we've ever had between the two of us over the last 7 years. Yeah, exactly. And I feel so much more optimistic thinking about it like that. So when Kulusevski goes to City in the summer, we'll just sit and cry about it. Anyway, going on to Christian Romero. Now, he's injured again. For those of you that can't understand voice tones, I did just do quotation marks. Before Argentina, I'm starting to get frustrated with Romero, because Paul Oakey tweeted today saying if a bigger club comes in for Romero, he's refusing to sign a new contract. Now we know Ange
flirted with it in the summer.
We all know Ange, and we all know Ange's mindset, and we all know what Ange believes in terms of you part of the project all the way, or you're not at all. I wouldn't be surprised that if Romero doesn't sign a new contract before the end of the season, he is sold in the summer. And actually, I'm sitting there saying now, I probably would take that, because Romero is not the best ball-playing centre-back. He's aggressive, he's a good defender, he's a top defender, but he's in terms of a ball-playing centre-back, he's not to the level of Van der Ven, he's not to the level of Dragusin at his better days, and I don't think he's a level even in terms of passing ability out the back as even someone like Ben Davies. He's not a natural passer. If anything, he kind of reminds me of being a holding midfielder rather than a passer.
A lot of people said that.
Yeah, I remember when Conte was a bench star. I think he'll end up being one of the first casualties of trying to excel certain positions higher.
I mean, he'll probably go for like 80 million. Probably.
Yeah, and I would trust Ange to go and sign another £50 million centre-back, and that centre-back and Dragusin push each other's levels up and up and up.
We need 2 centre-backs in the summer, though, then.
Yeah, we will need I think we'll need a rotational left-sided centre-back, and either a starter to replace Romero or a rotation player if Dragusin starts. I wouldn't be surprised if we bring in another Dragusin-type player in January. Romero goes in the summer, and then Dragusin becomes the starter.
And we still have no one else in the summer. Yeah.
In the summer, yeah. And bearing in mind, we've still got the young Croatian centre-back to come into the team as well.
And then with those kind of players, he'll probably be shipped out on loan for a few places.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think with his age and stuff, another loan wouldn't hurt him. What I'm starting to get frustrated about the most is he's verbalising that he's loyal when he loves the project, but I don't think, and it's a typically South American trait. If I'm honest, the only ones that do stick around are the ones that are shit. Sanchez, Lamela, etc. Bring back 1-5. The only players that I think
it's a South American thing, because Kane even said, as long as Spurs will fulfilling my ambition or something, it would stay.
Then I'll stay no matter what. Whereas I think Romero, it's not even about us getting there anymore. I think he wants out regardless.
Fed up, yeah.
I think we can win the Premier League this year, and I think he'd still go.
Yeah,
and I think that says to me that he's not the right kind of character for this squad. No,
I've never been like with Romero, even when in his early days or even on the content. I've never been so like, because a lot of people describe him, he's better than Saliba and all this crap. Maybe when he goes and he does crap somewhere else, people wake up.
I think he's a good player. I just think we could do better.
I don't think he's world class. I'm sorry, I don't think he's world class.
No, I'd agree with that.
Because you were the one earlier. The reason I bring it up was early in the season. You were saying Romero gets into like, what was it, the top teams or something. I was like,
I do think he gets into a large amount of the top teams, but that doesn't. You can be a world class potential centre back and still get into a lot of the top teams. You don't have to be
Arsenal or City, to be honest.
I'd probably agree with that. To be fair, actually, I'd probably agree with that.
Not for them.
I think if you look at right-sided centre halves for the top 6 clubs, so Saliba he doesn't start over, Van Dijk he doesn't start over, Konate he doesn't start over, De Ligt he probably does, and Harry Maguire he probably does, but then I start over did it?
Harry
So,
Maguire.
um,
Nothing else there. Villa, would he start with Pau Torres? I don't know about that.
no, Pau Torres is left-footed. He'd start over Konza, I'd say. Just it's
Yeah,
not light years.
not that far away.
Um,
They're quite close actually.
City, would he start over John Stones? No. Would he start over Ruben Diaz? No. I think right. To fit into our analogy we had, he's a perfect example of a player who's fifth that could become third, but will probably just end up being a 4-level player consistently throughout his career. Now, a 4-level player is fine for what we want to achieve and fine for the way we've spoken about building the squad. But what isn't fine is his mindset and his thought process and his flirting with other clubs. That then drops him to a 6, and at that point, replace.
I'm just honest. I'm not saying I don't want him at the club, but if he wants to go, I'd happily open the door.
Yeah. I think he's one of those players that he needs to pick and decide what he wants to do. He needs to make his decision before the final whistle goes in the final game of the season. And if he hasn't signed a new contract, then we need to sell him. I think that's a fair assessment. And in the meantime, it's not flirting with clubs. This whole international business is friendlies. Grow up. You don't need to play friendlies. Ask Mbappe. He came out and said, I'm not playing friendlies, I don't want to get injured.
Oh, he said that?
Yeah, it was fucking stupid. We didn't say it like that, but he said it in a French accent.
I'm not playing any friendlies.
I don't want to play. That wasn't French. Never mind.
Oh, wow. We're actually now on 15 minutes.
Yeah. Do you know what? This is a complete contrast to last week.
Yeah.
We'll talk a tiny bit about Ipswich before we go. But overall, last week, great run of results. We've spoken about where we see the team projection going, and we're actually on the same page with it for the first time ever, which is great, which feels nice. It's been quite a harmonious episode. Maybe we should have more stressful days off more often. And the other thing,
I think that Monday was going to be pretty horrific, though.
Yeah, we'll talk about Ipswich. Ipswich are still without a win.
Yeah, isn't he injured though?
They're still without a win. We play them on Sunday again. Phillips is red carded. We are 3 points off third, which is good. And our goal difference is the best better than everybody apart from Liverpool.
But we're top. But we're seventh. Yeah,
we are seventh. But like I say, we're building and we're building the form. This needs to be a win. It needs to be a dominant win. No disrespect to Ipswich. I'm going to say 3-1.
As well.
Cool, calm, collected, professional performance. Get the job done. Go into the international break third, maybe fourth. In all competitions, let me find the screenshot because I screenshotted this as well. In all competitions, we've won 9 out of 11. We've got 100% win rate in Europe. We beat City and we're 3 points off third. Now, at the moment, realistically, if I'd offered you that out of context at the start of the season, you'd have taken it. Granted, some of the losses have been unacceptable and some of the performances have been unacceptable. Palace being an example of that. But we are getting there. There is clear progress. It's a step in the right direction. That's it, really. Next week, we'll talk about, because I need to actually, so when's our next league game back after?
International
break?
Is
City on the 27th of November. So this will go out on the 8th.
Ipswich a week after, don't we?
No, Ipswich is this weekend. It'll go out on the 8th. Ipswich is on Sunday. So next week's one will be Guess Who, and the weeks after we will preview the City game. Talk about that. I'm going to fucking batter Harry at Guess Who next week because I'm not going into the year for 3-1 down. It's not happening. It's not happening. And then we're going to mix up Guess Who format for the next lot of international breaks next year. Other than that, thank you guys so much for the support recently. Yeah, and all that good jazz. The video last week is on like 80 views, and it was just us screaming and shouting at each other the whole time. So thank you for that.
Good or bad? By the way,
people clearly enjoyed it. Thank you for that, and I really appreciate the support. The thumbnail is one of my favourites that I've made so far. Subscribe, follow everything. For those of you guys that follow the Twitch content, I apologise I haven't been streaming. Honestly, I'm just exhausted at the moment. I'm probably going to take another week's break, to be honest. And then I'll be back again next week. And also, if you made it this far and you're waiting for the football shirt box giveaway thing, Sunday, I finish early. So when I get home, I will record that clip, do the winner, unless I get time to do it before work at some point during the week, which you'll know that if it's already gone live by the time this goes live. Other than that, as always, like, subscribe, 5-star review on Spotify, drop us a follow, and come on, you Spurs.